Welcome back to the channel. Racer X here, and today I'm back with my good buddies at Streetside Classics Tampa because they have a car that I wanted to review for you. It's actually a car that takes me back to like my teenage years, one of the most iconic cars from the 90s, a truly special car, and this one is basically immaculate. I can't wait to bring this to you. Should be a lot of fun. If you're brand new to my channel, please do me a big gigantic favor, hit subscribe right over here in the corner. Only like 17% of you guys watching at home are actually subscribed to the channel, which really surprises me. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell for all my new content, and off we go.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Now, every time I come into this place, they've got brand new stuff. I mean, it's just endless cars. I talk about that all the time. Like, check out this car right here. This is a new car they just got in. They get tons of new cars. The one I'm going to show you today is also new, a GT350, absolutely mint condition. They've even got like a Plaid, so they do have new age stuff here as well, but it doesn't matter if you're a truck guy. Check out that wild looking thing there. Check this out. This Roadrunner 572, what a freaking monster. Absolutely mint condition, beautiful. And this is just part of what they have here. I mean, you can see all the way down, and this is only one of their locations, guys. They've got several locations across the country. So let's step outside so I can show you the car that this video is really about. And there is the car that I wanted to show you. What an amazing looking machine. Still, after all these years, I absolutely love the look of this thing. That is a 1996 Gen 1 Acura NSX-T, and in Europe they may know this as the Honda NSX-T, basically the same company, but what an amazing machine. This was truly a supercar of the 90s. They made it from like 1991 all the way into the 2000s, and one of the most iconic cars that we've ever seen from Acura. Still looks good to this day. This one is in mint condition. Let's take a little walk around. Just take a look at how beautiful this car really is. You have your pop-up headlights right here. Once again, it is distinctly Acura, but as you get to the side of this car, you really see one of the special characteristics of it. I mean, just take a look at this silhouette. Anybody that considers themselves to be a true car enthusiast, they know what the silhouette of an NSX looks like. I mean, look at that extended tail, kind of a understated spoiler, but it sits really low to the ground. Truly an iconic supercar of the 90s. And I mean, just as I walk around this, just kind of take it in, because what a beautiful machine here. I'm just going to kind of walk on this side. Now, I will say that these air intakes here, they are functional. You can see those going all the way down the side. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of special, unique characteristics about this particular car. They made this thing basically all through the 90s up into the mid 2000s. And it was kind of a pinnacle for a lot of people, especially if you were into imports. Let's take a closer look at some of the other features. Now, obviously, we're dealing with a two-seat mid-engine car right here, so the engine sits right in there. I will show that to you here momentarily. But as with all mid-engine cars, whether it be a C8 or whether it be a McLaren, Lambo, there's a ton of them out there, right? Mostly exotic type stuff, but you do typically get a little storage area or a frunk in the front of the car. This one is a little bit different. You don't get any storage in the front of this particular car, but what you do get that you almost never see anymore is a spare. Now, this is kind of a weird looking spare, guys. I'm going to tell you, there is like nothing on this at all. But if you got in a pinch and you got a flat, you could probably throw it on there and drive a mile or two to the nearest station that could patch up your tire for you. It is nice having that. You almost never see these types of cars, supercars or whatever, with a spare in it. So it's kind of unique how Acura designed that. I do love the pop-up headlights. This era, you had a lot of really iconic cars with the pop-up headlights, and it's just distinctly 90s. So I really do like that. And take a look at these wheels. I think it's 215s in the front and 245s in the rear. This is, of course, a two-wheel drive car, but a really nice set of wheels they had on this particular car as well. Give you a quick look here. There's that functional air intake, as I mentioned, and of course those are the rear wheels there, but a really nice wheel setup on this car as well. Now that really begs the question, if you don't have any room in the front of the car, or the frunk, so to speak, where do you put your stuff? Well, this particular car with its extended or longer tail on it, you actually do get a pretty good sized cargo area in the back of this. I mean, you could legitimately probably put like 2 sets of golf clubs. You could certainly put a smaller suitcase in this, among other things. And not only do you have that, but right down in here, if you just pull up on this, you can see you do get some other goodies. So you got your spare, you got your jack, all the good stuff you might need, even little jumper cables and stuff in here to take care of your car in case of an emergency. Pretty cool. Let's take a close look at the interior of the Acura NSX-T. Obviously, you open from here, you unlock here, a little bit different there. There's a few quirky things about this particular car. You can see your seat controls right here, as well as your fuel door. All your window and door controls are basically right where you would expect them to be. And as you jump in here, you can see, obviously, you would expect analog gauges from this time period. You've got your 5-speed manual right here. The automatic is a 4-speed, and it is a little strange. I mean, it's very slanted here, the center section, but not a ton of room in this particular vehicle. It does sit very low, but really nice seating in this. You don't really feel too cramped when you're actually sitting in the thing. Now this one actually has the removable top on it, as you can see right here. That will go directly in the trunk, but a pretty nice place to sit and do business once you get used to how low the thing sits. So there you go. One other quirky little thing about this particular car is, in order to actually show you the engine in here, you have to get in here, kind of right behind the driver's seat, and you have to pull up on this. But in order to pull up on this, you have to insert the key to unlock it. And then, of course, once you've turned it, then of course you can, there you go. And then you can look at the engine. Let's take a look. So here is the power plant in the 1996 Acura NSX-T, and that is a 3-liter naturally aspirated V6. Now it does feature Honda's VTEC. This thing was kind of ahead of its time, right? I mean, 4 valves per cylinder, dual overhead cam, didn't make crazy power, especially by today's standards. 270 horsepower in the manual, which is what this one is, and then of course 252 in the auto. This is back in the days where the manuals were just so much better. But this thing screams. 8,000 RPM is the red line, and it makes maximum horsepower at 7,100 RPM. So a couple other key items to talk about when you're talking about the Gen 1 Acura NSX. Yes, we're going into the 3rd generation. They've moved to basically just hybrids and all that kind of stuff, and they're amazing. Lots of technology. It's come a long way in the last, 26 years. But this thing has an incredible road presence, and the numbers, they just don't numb you, right? I mean, it is very light. It's like just a shade over 3,000 pounds. I think it's maybe 50-60 pounds heavier in the automatic, but 0 to 60 is like 5.2 5.3 on this thing. Top speed's like 162 mile an hour. The quarter mile time won't overwhelm you. It's like in the high 13s at like 104, but it is just an amazing car to look at. It's an amazing car to drive. Like I said, that silhouette on the thing is it's just nuts. So anyway, guys, I want to take this thing down the road and see how it drives. Here's a quick look at the driving position in the 1996 Acura NSX-T. And as I did mention, it's got a very slanted center section here. There's that 5-speed manual. Of course, this is back from the days where they had cassette players and they had the lighters and the ashtrays built right into the car. Of course, the glove box, right as you would expect it to be. You are sit fairly close to your passenger, but you don't feel super claustrophobic in this particular car. It does sit really low to the ground. Window and door controls basically exactly where you would want them to be. It does have a couple of kind of quirky things here on sort of the steering wheel stalk. It's just your normal controls. It's just the way that Acura decided to do it, but you've got your analog gauges here. As I mentioned, you would expect that from a car of this age, but a nice place to sit and do business. There is something distinctly cool about driving a mid-engine car. If you've never driven one, you just have to go drive one to see what I mean. They just don't drive the same as a front-engine car. I mean, you feel the engine right behind you. The way this thing sounds is nuts. I mean, you wouldn't think a car that makes 270 horsepower would put a smile on your face, but this one definitely does. Maybe it's because it's so light, but it feels way faster than it should for something that makes 270 horsepower. Let's listen to this engine. Sounds fantastic. This car actually drives remarkably smooth. I would have expected a much rougher ride from something so low that's 27 years old. It runs remarkably smooth, and it's not real loud in your face or anything like that, but it does make a statement on the road, as I mentioned. But man, I'm having a good time driving it. Truth is, it's cars like these that really paved the way for some of the coolest cars that we have today. I mean, they built a lot of technology in this for its time, right? And like I said, I mean, even 26 years later, I can get in this, I can go out, I can have fun in it, I can take the top off if I want, and I could just let this engine scream. Oh man, this is a great little car, and yeah, you just can't tell that it is almost 3 decades old when you're driving it around. I mean, it takes corners nice, very enjoyable. This thing really does feel like it has way more than 270 horsepower. I mean, the clutch engagement, I mean, there's something about these naturally aspirated cars. I mean, the clutch engagement in this is so good, and it's just such a pure driving car. It's very forgiving. And, you know, the saying goes, you never want to meet your heroes. And growing up, this car was one of my heroes, so to speak. I mean, it's one of the cars that I saw on the road and it just snapped my neck, and I loved it. And I always thought, man, I'd love to drive one of those. Here we are driving it 26, 27 years later, and I'm really liking it. It's not disappointing me at all. Oh yeah. Now I realize what some of you may be thinking is, how can a guy that's driven and owned so many 1,000+ horsepower cars be smiling and having so much fun in a car that makes 270 horsepower? And part of it is just the nostalgia of a car like this. It's a special car. And the other part of it is Acura kind of, I don't know what they did. They built some magic into this that just makes it a lot of fun to drive. I've said this many times. You don't necessarily need a ton of horsepower to go out and have a car that's truly enjoyable and fun to drive. And this one is a perfect example of that. I mean, I could cruise in this all day. I can't tell you how much attention this car is getting just driving it around. Everybody's stopping, taking pictures of it. And the coolness factor of this, it's just off the chart, and it sounds good as a bonus. So really enjoying this. I guess I better go give this thing back before I do something stupid to the guys at Streetside, like buy it. So anyway, guys, this has been a lot of fun driving this car. Well, that is about it for my review of the Gen 1, the 1996 Acura NSX-T. Truly a special car, still special today. I can't believe how much attention this thing gets. That one basically looks mint condition. I mean, what a nice car to drive even after all these years. So anyway, guys, I am a big fan. It's kind of weird, like when you're in your teenage years and you see something like this on the road, it really makes an impression of you. And here we are all these years later, and I'm driving it, reviewing it. So pretty cool deal for me. Let me know what you guys think about the Acura NSX Gen 1 in the comments down below, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, Racer X. Oh my gosh, I like this so much. Oh, it's like on rails.